So with Battlefield 6's Season 4's release, the new map Tsuru Reef has become a transport helicopter heaven. In today's video, I'm going to be explaining how to fly the transport helicopter and also how to be an effective gunner for a transport helicopter.
Need to be pissed. Gunner's dead,
Pilot's dead. Go down. So let's get started. These are my vehicle control settings. You don't necessarily need to copy any of this really, it's all just personal preference. Just make sure that what you are using you are comfortable with. However, if you are flying on default settings, I would recommend going through and just adjusting them to what you do like, because the default settings are horrible. Next we have my PC key bindings. Now for the transport helicopter, if you only plan on flying that, you don't really need to copy these, just fly with whatever you feel comfortable with. If you plan on flying the other two helicopters, then I would recommend copying these, as this is what most pro pilots tend to use. Now for controller players, these are my controller settings. I'll say the same thing I said to the PC players, but essentially just fly with whatever you feel comfortable with. If you plan on only flying the transport helicopter, you don't necessarily need to copy my controls. Next we have controller button mappings. Again, you don't need to copy these. These are just my personal controls. I find these the most comfortable to fly on, and if you plan on flying transport helicopter, you'll definitely want to be flying on something you're comfortable with. But once again, just personal preference, you don't need to copy them. Next, let's talk about the transport helicopter loader, and wait a minute. Oh right, there is none. Even Battlefield 2042 had more diversity in the options, by the way. Just want to put that out there. So anyways, now that that's out of the way, let's get on to just how to fly the transport helicopter. Now, the transport helicopter is a perfect helicopter for casual gamers, because you don't need to do any of the aiming. You just let your gunner do all the work for you. It's perfect. With that in mind, you need to give your gunner good angles. So what I recommend is you go into Portal and just look at the angles that your gunner gets. Generally speaking, the gunner can look downwards very easily, but he cannot look upwards. So as a general reference point, where your blades are, your gunner can't shoot past that. They can't shoot any more upwards than that. And you need to keep this in mind. You have to always be thinking about your gunner and what they can see. Which is why I recommend you just go into Portal and just experiment with the limits here of your gunner, so that you can just get a rough idea of what angles they're working with. So let's move on to how to survive in the transport helicopter. Now, my first, best, crucial advice to you is turn the radio on. Now, my next piece of advice is don't engage unless you have a gunner. It's better to wait than to go in without a gunner, and if you try and switch seats, which I've seen people do, they'll switch seats because they don't have a gunner, you'll end up having your chopper stolen by somebody who doesn't know how to fly, and they get your chopper killed very quickly. So don't rush things, and definitely do not switch seats unless you absolutely have to in this game. Now, when you start a Battlefield match, you'll want to enter what I call a gunner trial phase. This is where, because if you're flying with random gunners, you don't know who necessarily might be the best out of the two, you give them both angles. You'll alternate between the left side and the right side, and then when you find the best gunner, you'll stick to them, you'll give them the best angles. The reason why I say you shouldn't really try to cut in between and give both gunners good angles is because, one, the only way to really do that effectively is to place yourself in the middle of the enemy, and if you do that, you're going to get absolutely destroyed. It's possible, yes, and if you are doing it, you need to do it fast and get out of there, but otherwise, I'd advise just finding a gunner and sticking to that gun only, rather than trying to mix it up a bit. So now that you've found your ideal gunner, let's talk about how to do attack runs. Now, on Tsuru Reef, which by the way, if you are flying transport helicopter, this is the only map I would recommend actually bothering to fly it on, as it just has so much air cover, and this is perfect for what I'm about to explain here. So essentially, my routine when it comes to flying the transport helicopter is, I will stay to cover, stay below radar if possible at all times. And when I'm ready, I'll find a base to pop up on, and I will pop up and I will start to climb as high as possible, and I'll circle the base. And I'll do that, and hopefully, if my gunner isn't blind, they will find targets to kill. It's just a matter of time. And then when I think the base is clear, I'll do a little bit of a lower sweep, and eventually I'll just progressively work my way through the area until I'm happy with it. Most people don't know this, but the gunner's seat has stabilization. When you aim in, the gun stabilizes for you at a certain point. Now, as a pilot, this is great because you can afford to fly faster and more aggressive, and I encourage you to do this. If your gunner can't keep up with all of the tools that DICE has given them, then it's honestly just a skill issue at this point. Now, as a transport helicopter, it's also vital that you know when you've overstayed your welcome. The longer you circle around a base, the more people get killed, and the more people get killed, the more people that respawn as engineers to come back and kill you. So, after you've done your circles, I would say stay for around a minute, maybe 2, disengage. And if you get hit by anybody, by an RPG or by a guided missile, you should be leaving anyway. Don't stay any longer than that, because if you've been hit once, you are now one shot. You shouldn't be staying anywhere near the combat zone if you are one shot. So once you disengage, find a different angle of attack to pop back up from again, because people will catch on. They will start to realize, oh, he keeps coming from behind that one hill every time. All right, I'm going to sit there waiting for him. So pick a different angle to approach from every time. Try to be unpredictable as a transport heli pilot. And this goes for all helicopters in Battlefield 6, but do not try and turn around in midair whilst everyone can see you. Because when you try and turn around whilst every enemy on the enemy team can see you, then you are going to be killing all of your speed, and you are now such an easy target for any enemy engineers to wipe you out. So stick with your momentum and exit the combat area before you then turn around and then re-engage. Now, assuming you've got a good gunner and you've got the basics of how to fly, let's go over how to take out other enemy air vehicles. So generally speaking, when you find your enemy air vehicle as a target, you'll want to be staying above them, because as I said earlier, your gunner's angle of attack is so much better when they're pointing downwards than it is if they're pointing upwards. So always try to stay above your target. Resist the urge to dive onto them as well. The higher you are above them, the safer you are, whilst your gunner can still dish damage out to them. Generally speaking, the advice is sort of the same as it would be for the Little Bird and the attack helicopter. You want to try and catch your target off guard and give your gunner the chance to end the fight before it can even start. But honestly, with 2 transport helicopters fighting each other, you'll get your chance to show off your skill. Alright? It's not as fast as it is if it was like a Little Bird taking out another Little Bird. It's not that fast, so you do get a chance to dogfight each other in this game. However, the same concept's going to apply here. As a transport helicopter, you want to prioritize the enemy air vehicles first. That gives you breathing room so that you can then go around and take out anybody else you want around the map. If you're on other maps, you'll need to be more aware of especially the attack helicopter. The attack helicopter's rockets, again, it's the same idea of just, you didn't even know it was there and poof, you're dead. No chance to react to it at all. Now, another big threat you'll have with being a transport helicopter is the engineers. Every engineer will be out to get you as soon as they see you, because in their mind they don't see something that can obliterate them in half a millisecond. They instead just see 5 kills packed up kindly for them in a helicopter. So to survive engineers, what do we do? Well, while you're circling, the first thing I do is I like to just change my altitude. And the way I do this is it sounds so simple, but most engineers, they overthink trying to shoot a Black Hawk. So literally all I do is I will literally just go up and down as I'm circling. And this is good because your gunners will be fine with this. They won't really notice it. It's if you start moving sideways and up and rolling your helicopter, that's what throws off a gunner's aim. Bobbing up and down won't affect them that badly. And if it does, they honestly need to just cope with it. Now, another thing I like to do is when I spot an engineer lining up for me, I like to just lead them on a little bit. I like to pretend I'm just going to continue in the same path like a bad pilot would. And then right as they're about to shoot, I will just slam on the brakes. I will change direction as hard as I physically can. And it always gets them this because their rocket will go off to Narnia and they've completely missed if you time it right. So just make sure you're aware, make sure you're using the free look button as well. You'll see me doing this a lot in the background footage here. Whenever possible, I'm using free look to scan the environment, because that's the most important part of being a transport helicopter. Now, for guided launches, it's a little bit different because people can guide those towards you. If you spot one coming towards you, you need to brake as hard as possible. Try and drop your altitude, or ideally try and break line of sight. It's a lot harder to track a transport helicopter that's broken line of sight. So braking line of sight is the optimal move, but if you can't, like I said again, just sudden change in altitude, slam on the brakes. You've got to time it right, because if they realize what you're trying to do and they start predicting your path, they will hit you. So now I would like to cover some gunner tips. First one being, prioritize any threats to you and your pilot. And what I mean by this is, if you see an engineer holding an RPG at you, take them out first. I don't care if there's another 5 people all clustered up together in a shack and it's an easy 5 kills. Kill the engineer first. Your pilot will thank you and you'll thank yourself, because once you kill the engineer, you are free to do as you please. When it comes to taking on enemy air vehicles, if you're fighting a transport helicopter, aim for the gunner first, and once you've killed the gunner, aim for the pilot. This strategy, you can pretty much clear up any dogfight before you've actually destroyed the enemy chopper. The reason why this is good is because, especially at high altitude engagements, your pilot might get unlucky and they might get locked onto by an AA missile. And if that happens, they have no choice but to disengage, and it's the only smart choice to make. Even if you were going to win, or if you were losing, they have to disengage. They have to go down and they have to go low, and that's ultimately going to put them in a weaker position. So if you can get that wrapped up quicker, even a pilot change and a gunner change is enough to completely throw off the chemistry within a transport helicopter crew. Another thing to be a bit cautious about is just some of the trees on Tsuru Reef, especially around the middle area, Delta. They're just a bit finicky when you're aiming in, and you know how I talked about the stabilization that the gunner camera gets? Sometimes the stabilization can get snapped onto the tree branches, and it's really annoying when this happens because I don't want it to. So just be a bit cautious around that, and this is also why maybe you shouldn't rely on the stabilization too much. I tend to just use it once I've found a target, and when it comes to air-to-air engagements, I don't really rely on it at all. Another thing, as a gunner, switch seats to repair your chopper. It can save so many runs if you go and switch seats to repair, and it also speeds up getting back into the fight. So wherever possible, switch seats and start repairing your teammate. Ideally, in an ideal world, you'd have engineers doing this for you anyway, but sometimes that doesn't happen, so take initiative and start repairing on your own. And then the final tip, but I would argue this is probably the most important one, do not let the gun overheat. I don't care if you have to stop shooting for a bit and it looks a bit embarrassing to your pilot, don't let the gun overheat. It is so much better to stop shooting for just a little bit, because the gun cools down so much faster if you haven't already overheated it. And if you let your gun overheat in this game, that can be the difference to dying and living, especially in an air-to-air engagement. And now, as always, I like to wrap this video up with just final notes. First one being, obviously, with every air vehicle in this game, people will be out to get you, especially if you do well. And I think in this thing, especially with how big it is, like, dying is inevitable, and there's also the Igla bug, that's even worse for this thing. The Igla bug, because this vehicle is so big, is pretty much just a guaranteed hit at close range. Again, you can counter it by just flaring before they shoot the missile. The next thing I'd like to talk about is team play. Now, team play in the transport helicopter is a big thing. It's in the name, transport helicopter. Flank around, you know, drop people off behind enemy lines. It will help your team win a conquest match. You don't just need to provide support fire. Battlefield 6 is a horrible game for vehicle players. It will take time to get used to it, and you just need to accept the fact that death is inevitable in this game. Somebody will get lucky against you eventually. Somebody will catch you off guard eventually. It's just a matter of time. So if you go in and you start struggling, trust me, I understand the pain. I am so glad I didn't have to learn flying on this game. I learned it on previous Battlefield games, because this is, without a doubt, the hardest Battlefield game in history to learn how to fly on. And I don't say that lightly. I thought 2042 was hard to learn how to fly on. Nope, this one takes the cake. So if you start struggling, keep at it, and take breaks if you need to, but I would definitely advise just sticking to Tsuru Reef as a transport helicopter pilot. It is the best map for it by far. And this is going to conclude my 3-part guide series. I've gone through the Little Bird, I've gone through the attack helicopter, and now this is the transport helicopter done. If you want to see those other 2 guides, I'll leave a link to a playlist in the description and in the pinned comment. If you're interested in flying vehicles, you'll definitely want to visit. And if you've made it this far, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you all in my next video.